Why, hello there.
I'm Leslie Martin. I'm currently a rigging artist at Mainframe Entertainment. I used to be a technical artist at MPC, and then I went to Sony for character effects. And those are both cloth, hair, fur simulation. And then I went into rigging at Mainframe, which is putting the bones in so the characters can move properly.
Nice.
All right, so let's start at the beginning of COVID. I actually went on a cruise.
Oops.
Well, I'm glad I went on it. It was a really fun cruise. It's like a nerd convention. It's great. It's the Joko cruise. If anyone wants to look it up, highly recommend. Bunch of nerds on a boat for a week. It's the best time ever, and I'm really glad that we were able to go. Last year it was from March 7th to 14th, which those dates might ring a bell because that's when it was declared a pandemic.
Oh, wow, okay.
So we got on the boat at a high alert, like this is a thing that might affect us.
Yeah, really.
There were already some princess cruises that had been, oh, kitty. There were already some princess cruises that had been stopped, and people weren't allowed to go home because there was COVID on board and they were being quarantined on the boat. So we knew that that was a possibility, so I took my Switch and my computer and made sure I had enough to keep me entertained for 2 weeks on a boat after the fact if I was not allowed out of my room.
Yeah, so you didn't get stuck on the cruise, did you?
No.
Okay.
So no one on the boat had COVID. No one got sick for anything except for normal con crud. Because like boats are a cesspool of germs anyway, and then you have a bunch of nerds staying up all night and basically conventioning out, and so you have all that as well. And so like there was hand sanitizer everywhere. And when we got back, it was the day that they closed the ports for outgoing ships. So the airports were full of people that were turning right around and going back home because they couldn't go on their cruises.
Wow.
So it was really lucky timing for us. It sucks for everyone after us.
Yeah, you got right in that perfect window.
Yeah, great timing for us. And then I came back to my apartment and I was quarantining for 2 weeks because that's what you do when you come into Canada with COVID. Or not with COVID, but like during COVID.
Yes. In the year of our Lord COVID.
Yeah, right. So I actually got my permanent residency in February, but I didn't have my card yet when I went on the cruise. So I had to change my flight because they had locked down the border so that permanent residents were allowed through, but other people weren't.
Yeah.
Or I think they were on the precipice of locking it down. And so if I flew through an airport to come home, I probably wouldn't have been let in because the card or the temporary card I got said something about like you can't use this for air travel. It's not a valid passport or whatever.
Is that like you printed out, right?
Yeah, it's like just the paper that they give you while you're waiting for your plastic card.
Yeah.
And so that's not valid for air travel. And if they wouldn't, and we were unsure if they would let me in with just my passport or not. So I flew to Seattle instead and got one of my good friends to drive me over the border, which they let her in because she was promising to drive right back.
Oh.
And I did have my permanent resident thing that's valid for land travel but not air travel. So that was intense.
Yup.
But yes, thank you for driving me over the border, my very good friend Allison.
Shout out to Allison.
Yeah, she's the best. So I was home, but I couldn't go pick up my work from home station because that's also the week that they told everyone you're going to work from home at Sony. So I was home and they said that I didn't have any sick days or vacation days or something. And so I applied for the CERB, the Canadian Emergency Relief Benefit.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what it stands for.
I think so, yeah.
And then it turns out I did have sick days and vacation days that I could use. So then I had to talk to the government and be like, Yeah, so the reason I didn't like the reason I didn't input for these weeks is because it turns out I did get money from my work, so I wasn't eligible. Um, but yeah, that was a fun bureaucratic thing to deal with the
I
government.
imagine. I mean, you've already been through permanent residency process, so
Yeah.
you've been through the gauntlet.
Yeah. So I was home, I was waiting for my 2 weeks to be up, and it I played Animal Crossing a lot. It was not, or was Animal Crossing out at that
I
point?
think so. I think it came out just as a lot of lockdowns were happening. It was a good
Yeah.
escape for a lot of people.
Yeah, it was either then or when my contract wasn't renewed that I like got
Mm,
hardcore into Animal Crossing. It was probably after my contract wasn't renewed because I
mm.
don't think I was on the first wave of Animal Crossing players, but I was like really hardcore into it for a while, and I don't think I would have had time for work if I was hardcore into it.
That's fair.
So yeah, I didn't have my work from home station. I was just hanging out in my room, probably reading. Then when I did get my work from home station after my 2 weeks was up, it was pretty much normal. Like it was weird how normal it was because like all of the meetings just turned into Zoom meetings. I missed seeing people in the office. I still do.
Yeah.
Miss seeing people in the office. That's the worst part about work from home.
No free snacks too.
Yeah, the free snacks were great. Um, but yeah, like being able to talk to people in other departments or like on other shows, was great.
Yeah.
Whereas now, or like even after COVID, it was just like you have to schedule time to talk to someone. So that's kind of rough for the chance meetings in the hallway where you learn stuff and pick up on stuff and make new friends and stuff.
It's
Like,
it's true. As someone who's relatively introverted, um, being in person kind of forced me to establish relationships with people. Whereas work from home, I'm just like, now I'm in my turtle shell. I've got my cats, I've got my wife, and life
yeah,
has paused.
yeah, yeah. I'm an extrovert and it sucks.
I'm so sorry.
You
Because
should be. It's all
your
your fault.
battery, like, how do you charge your battery without that?
Um, you don't really.
Mm,
Um, the first couple months were really hard because I felt my extrovert energy going down, and then when it hit zero, I couldn't do anything to recharge it really, and like it was really rough to adjust to that. Now I'm sort of used to it. It's sort of like depression.
hmm
Like a lot of people who get depressed, clinically, people if it's an intense depression, then you can't get out of bed, or at least from my experience, there are different levels of depression. There's intense depressions where I can't move, like I physically just can't function.
Yeah.
There are the medium depressions where I can eventually convince myself to function a little bit. And then there are the mild depressions where everything sucks, but I can sort of put on a mask and go on with my life. And it's sort of like a mild depression where you just learn to put on a mask and go on with your life.
Mm.
Um,
Coping.
yeah, it's which isn't exactly healthy. Um, it's gotten really hard for me to differentiate now when I'm actually feeling okay or when I'm not.
Mm.
One of my indicators has been if someone is like, "Hey, how are you?" and I start crying, then I know I'm not okay,
That's
which
fair. That's a good
has
indicator.
happened multiple times. Um, so like I think I'm doing great, and then it turns out I've just been able to lie to myself too. Um,
Mm.
but yeah, COVID's been hard. And then when everything was pushed at Sony because of COVID, they didn't renew my contract. And so I was off for a month and I was applying to jobs and trying to figure out where I was going to go from there. And I got an interview at Mainframe, and it was really weird because it was my first like Zoom interview.
Hmm.
Um, like I guess I don't know if it's common to do. I guess my other interviews with NPC were phone interviews.
Yeah.
But I didn't realize that people did like video interviews before. I don't know if that's a product of COVID or not.
I when I interviewed with Disney Animation a couple times, they were video interviews, and it
Hmm.
was a nightmare because the first time I tried it, my camera just stopped working, and they just stared at my stupid icon for the entire interview.
What was your icon?
It was me wearing, giving this goofy smile, and I had these balloon fairy wings from a fair I was at on my back. So just like a backpack of balloon animal fairy wings.
Okay, but
So
that's great.
honestly, I would have hired myself on the spot.
Yeah, exactly. What's their
But
problem?
yeah, it could be worse. At least due to COVID, we've upgraded our internet package, so that would not happen again.
Yeah. But so I was talking with them, and then the 40 minutes of Zoom was up, and so my interview ended suddenly in the middle of in the middle of a sentence.
Oh, gee.
And luckily, I just called back. It was like, yes, I do know what I'm doing with technology. Um, and I was hired, and I have met one person on the team because I went to school with him. And I sort of met some other people on the team because we, like, back when the curve was almost flat, we had a social distance picnic where we all brought our own stuff to the park and sat 6 feet apart from each other and sort of yelled conversations. So I've sort of met some of the people in person, but not really.
Hmm.
So it's
It's
been
strange.
interesting.
Yeah.
Onboarding completely virtually is not fun.
No, no. I think companies are going to have to come up with a better way of socializing and
Hmm.
building that into the pipeline almost.
Yeah.
Um, where do you see this? Where do you see all this going? Because I do think COVID is going to go away at some point. I don't think it's
Yeah.
going to happen as fast as maybe we would like it to, but where do you see the film industry going in the hypothetical post-COVID future?
That's a good question. I think for visual effects, I honestly don't know. Um, because you still have to have the plates and all that.
Yeah,
Like, well, during COVID, I guess I don't know where visual effects is going to go because you still have to film the plates in person.
yeah.
Um, Post COVID, I think visual effects is probably gonna go back to pretty much normal, how it was before. Animation is a lot easier to do in distance,
Hmm.
I feel. Um, so I think the animation studios are probably not going to be as gung ho to go back to the office.
Especially
Uh,
if it's work from home for them, like they're not experiencing major difficulties with it.
yeah, like people love it because there's not a commute. I can roll out of bed and walk 5 feet to my computer, and it's great. My wake up time, instead of being, I think it was like 5:30 before,
Mm.
has become 8:55
Minor
because
difference.
work starts at 9. So I'm like, okay, I guess I'm getting out of bed now.
Yeah, brew some coffee, roll into the chair.
Yeah. So I think it's probably going to be either fully work from home still if you want to, or fully in the office if you want to, or half and half. I think there's
Hmm.
going to be three options because, like, you can go into the office for meetings and stuff with your team, or you can stay home when you don't have those meetings. Or if you want to be in the office full time, there's probably going to be some way to do that still. I do know that we have more people than office space right now at
Hmm.
Mainframe. So that it's not like, even if and when COVID does go away, it's not a threat immediately to have to go back to the office.
That's a good feeling. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what would
Um,
you choose of the three options?
I would choose the hybrid.
The hybrid.
I would want to go into the office 1 or 2 days a week, and the rest of the time I'd want to be at home because I do get a lot more done at home because it's quieter and less distractions and just less commute, so I can
Yeah,
focus better.
I've noticed the same. I've been far more productive at home, and You would think it'd be the opposite, but no.
Yeah.
And that's
Then
that's
wake
the
up an
thing
hour later.
about work from home is like it would be kind of amazing if you could go and do other things when you wanted to. Like if we could
Yeah.
have game night again and have you over, if we could
Hmm.
go to the movie theater without worrying about catching a disease that may kill us or those we love.
Yeah.
Like if the circumstances were different, this would be an ideal time to work in the film industry. So
Yes.
here's hoping once this passes, maybe it'll be better than it was before.
Yeah, I think it probably will be because people now know that it's possible.
Hmm.
Like the when I was asking about working from home before all this madness, they said, "Well, we don't know if we can sustain that. We don't know if it's able to be done." And then COVID hit, and they're like, "All right, guess we're doing this." And I was like, "Yeah, they didn't have the infrastructure before to be able to do it. They had to roll that out real quick. So like, I get it,
Yeah.
but also it is possible, and we know that now, and
Yep.
it's we know it's
Proven
able to
and
be
tested.
sustained. So, because they're doing it, so they don't have that excuse to fall back on anymore."
Exactly. And I think honestly it's like it's a bit of a freedom too, because I think a lot of the danger in VFX and animation was that you just live in perpetual fear that if your contract isn't renewed, you've got to find work somewhere else. You may have to relocate, or the studio you work for may just open a branch in Montreal or wherever it's currently incentivized for them to operate for cheap, and then everyone has to move or find a new job. And I think with
Yeah,
the work from home thing, there's the potential that we don't have to worry about that anymore because
yeah,
wherever they are operating from doesn't mean we have to operate from. Maybe. Who
right.
knows? Well, thank you so much. Unless you have any final words for us, I think this has been fantastic.
No problem. I don't think I have any awesome parting words, but
Those were awesome parting words. They're awesome.
follow your passion.
Yes. If people want to connect with you, where they get, if people want to connect with you, where can they find you?
You can find me on LinkedIn. In your connection message, just tell me you found me through the video. If I don't know you and you don't put that message in, I might not connect with you just because I do like to know where people are coming from.
Mm-hmm. Totally
Unless
fair.
you're a recruiter, then I'll always connect with you. um,
Awesome.
but yeah, if you're a normal people person, then be sure to put like where you found me so that I will connect with you. I think my LinkedIn URL is LEMartin3, like LEMARTIN 3, number 3.
Yep. And just make sure it's the Leslie Martin who is a rigger and worked at MPC and mainframe and all that stuff. You've
Yeah,
probably
the
got
coolest one.
the coolest one,
Yeah,
obviously.
obviously.
Obviously. Awesome.
Hey, thanks for watching that video. If you liked what you saw, give us a like. If you didn't, don't. Head on over to thehungrycreatures.com for more episodes, short films, or to sign up for our free magazine. Catchphrase.